Today, for today's gaming commentary, we're going to take a break from Microsoft versus FTC in the courtroom, and we're going to take a look at something very nostalgic back in the 90s and 80s. Does anybody remember those commercials of Nintendo? Well, today, on today's gaming commentary, we're going to be taking a look at a featured article from Game Informer talking about how do those commercials back in the 1990s and 80s came to be. This is a gaming commentary for behind the dangerous stunts of Nintendo's iconic Mario commercials. Let's take a look. So this is by Game Informer, and we're going to read our entire article for you guys. Behind the dangerous stunts of Nintendo's iconic Mario commercials, written by Alex Van Eycken on July 3rd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And let's start reading. Quote, I was raising my hand if I was to say I'm about to die. Someone save me. Quote, end quote. Tim Fireball Lawrence says he was about to drown in the swimming pool while wearing a Yoshi costume, no less. And you can see that photo here. Quote, the head was vacuum formed, but Yoshi's whole body was solid foam. Adds Kathy Lawrence, the costume designer responsible for creating the mascots for dozens of Nintendo's TV spots in the 90s and 2000s. Quote, it went from a costume that weighed about 35 pounds to over 200 pounds, Fireball says. The foam, like a sponge, just absorbed the water, and I just started to sink. Mistaking his outreached hand for a thumbs up, Kathy and the crew were excited as they watched her husband fight for his life underwater. Fireball never trained to be a stuntman. He's an illustrator supporting Kathy's costume business, KCL Productions, since they were both laid off from Disney in the 1990s. For over a decade, the couple traveled the annual designing mascots for Nintendo's commercials, including Super Smash Bros., Animal Crossing, Banjo-Tooie, Kirby, and several Mario spin-offs. Kathy crafted all the costumes while Fireball quietly donned their creations, acting in almost every commercial they worked on. So today we're going to take a look at this commercial that is going to be for Mario Party 4. So let's have a quick look at that. I will not play the sound due to copyright reasons, but take a look at how the commercial was. That is nuts. Then Mario and Peach fighting, Yoshi and Luigi fighting. That was nostalgic right here. Mario with the carts and stuff. They're fighting each other for wrestling and stuff. Mario Party 4, my friends. I I, I love Mario Party when I was younger. The article continues. I can think of a lot of worse ways to go, I suppose, Fireball says while chuckling, reflecting on what it'd be like to die on the set of Mario Party 4 commercial. At the time, he claims he was more concerned with ruining $1 million television spot than his well-being. And he says, now, I'm freaking out because we don't know if he can get to the water out of the water next day. To do the shoot, he continues. All these people are flying from all over the planet to come here to do their job. And we're not going to hold that up. And the one thing you learn by working in the film industry is that you don't have to tell anybody, you don't have to tell anyone, tell you that you'll never work in this town again. You just create that situation for yourself by something not not working when you come to the set. Safety was a primary concern for the crew, but the danger was a natural part of the business. In the same commercial, a stuntman flew off a roof on skis dressed as Mario. You saw that in the commercial. You just make it work, Kathy says. According to the Lawrences, they use mascots in ways no one had ever done. The two helped one of the most successful video game companies reach a new generation of kids, now comprising a large proportion of the company's fan base 2 decades later. And they did it quietly from their backyard in Santa Monica, California. That's nuts. Now we're going into designing the icons, and of course Yoshi. Look at Yoshi's. Look at this Yoshi. Designing icons. A few years after establishing their company, an ad agency called Leo Brett Worldwide approached Cathy and Fireball to work on the very first Super Smash Bros. Commercial, set to the Turtles' Happy Together. The promotional video mashes up Nintendo 64 gameplay clips with footage of mascots Mario, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and Pikachu beating each other up in a grassy field. A large film crew led by director Mark Story, Saturday Night Live Season 11, completed the half-day shot at Walt Disney's Studio Ranch in California. While the production was far less intensive than later commercials than that the Lawrences worked on, it was it was their first time working with the Nintendo, which according to the couple was very strict in how its characters were portrayed. And it makes sense. And quote, I say this with a fair amount of confidence. Cathy has built hundreds, if not thousands, of mascots since the early 1970s. And one of the most difficult costumes, if not the most difficult, was Pikachu. Fireball says, it's hard because they're taking the ergonomics of a character with an inch tail, with inch tall, like Mario. And then you're trying to fit a human inside this character. And they were extremely strict, but at the same time, also very understanding that the mascots were meant to be colorful and funny, matching the flavor of the game. And that makes sense, guys. That absolutely makes sense. Next part, it says, Cathy designed Pikachu to fit actress Cindy Sorensen, who did Star Trek The Next Generation, who was roughly 3 feet tall while a 7 foot tall man wore the Donkey Kong suit. That little lightning bolt on her back had to be perfect. No, no, I think you should move it down an eighth of an inch, Cathy yells, imitating one of the producers they work with. And you can see here with the Donkey Kong suit here, and that there's a Pikachu in the back there. That's pretty cool. Despite the chaos, the two describe Nintendo and Leo Barrett worldwide as, quote, amazingly talented, creative, and professional to work with, end quote. Super Smash Bros. Began a long, fruitful partnership between the parties. KCL Productions shoveled through several actors to find folks comfortable with mascot acting. Most caused problems or delays on set, citing claustrophobia, heat, and asthma attacks as hindrances. Quote, after the Super Smash Bros. Commercial, I realized I needed people to try the costumes I designed. So I asked Fireball to try them on, Cathy says. And because of that, he was so good at knowing how far a costume could go and make it alive. So in the rest of the commercials, he was always Mario and Yoshi. And you can see Cathy with the Yoshi costume here. And she continues, I just knew if I wore the costume, not only do we get paid more, which was a plus, but we're not going to have any problems because I'm not going to complain, Fireball says. Fireball. For years, due to this contract with Nintendo, he couldn't tell anyone he was Super Mario and Yoshi in Nintendo's commercials. When filming near the public, his contract prohibited him from removing the mask, something he could only do behind closed doors. Following the success of the Super Smash Bros. Suit, KCL Productions follow Nintendo worldwide, filming on cruise ships in Greece, down stages across the US and Canada, and on the beaches of St. Thomas. And as you can see here, we have Mario, Yoshi, Pikachu, and Donkey Kong. This is actually from the thumbnail for today. So that's pretty cool here. Next, let's go to by land and sea. Quote, we shot one commercials in the Virgin Islands, and it was an interesting experience with Kathy, my wife, and her ex-husband Bob, who was acting as Luigi, Fireball says about working on Mario Vacation, the code name of 2001 Super Mario Advance 2 ad. Bob and I ran down the beach together, like best buddies dressed as Mario and Luigi. We got along great, and we all have a son together, but it was a surreal experience to be running down the beach in the Virgin Islands as these characters. It afforded us some unique experiences. Though it featured Yoshi running along wildlife in a safari-like setting, which the crew filmed across a horse treadmill in Hollywood, the commercial focused mainly on swimming mechanics in Super Mario Bros. Advance 2, the Super Mario World port on Game Boy Advance. The director, Graham Herman, Anthony Bourdain's Bone in the Throat, decided to film with an underwater camera that replicates the game's water levels. Cathy built two Mario mascots to accommodate the production, designing a standard one and another filming beneath the Caribbean waves. Quote, we had to build a Super Mario costume with Belle's cheeks that looked like it. It could hold on its breath underwater, Fireball says. I had to get down in the water, put my head on, put my mouth around a straw, and we built the costume's face, blow bubbles out of it, and then pull the head off to come up to get air. It was pretty hairy to get that one shot right. And you can see in this photograph the Mario and Luigi running down the beach in the Caribbean here, Virgin Islands. However, when submerged in the water in pre-production, Cathy and Fireball discovered an unforeseen problem with the Mario costume. A material found in boogie boards, L200 EVA foam, comprised several of the suit's body parts. The Fireball's positive buoyancy prevented him from swimming underwater. Quote, we added dive weights and the head and feet to create zero buoyancy, allowing me to swim underwater and blow bubbles out of the mouthpiece without fighting the head and feet that we wanted to surface, Fireball says. There were a lot of firsts, and it was exciting to be part of them, because it was a combination of excitement and terrifying fear. He continues, you know that you may not make it through the shot, and this may be your last day on Earth. No one had ever really put a mascot in a swimming pool, and they had them swim before, or in the ocean. I don't think anyone up until Banjo-Tooie had ever considered jumping out of an airplane at 12,000 feet while wearing a mascot. That's just something that anyone had done ever before. End quote. Cathy says, quote, I've worked for a lot of custom companies, and I can say nobody had ever done these things, Cathy confirms. This is Banjo-Tooie, and you can see how he's flying out of the aircraft at 12,000 feet for the Banjo-Tooie game. These photographs are pretty neat. I gotta say. I don't think I will be able to do 12,000 feet. Let's continue. Nuts and bolts is the next section of this article. If there is one thing that Cathy was terrified of a set of Nintendo's Banjo-Tooie taping, it was breaking someone's neck. The premise of the ad story was to cheekily showcase what would happen if Banjo tried flying but forgot his bird partner Kazooie, and it concluded with the protagonist crashing into the earth. Effectively, they were creating a live-action cartoon scene. The Lawrences built two versions of the Banjo-Kazooie costume, one for a person skydiving from a moving plane, and the other for a 60-story crane to drop with a 200-pound dummy inside. Kathy was worried about the weight of the foam could paralyze the stuntman if something went wrong. I said, quote, "You tell me what you need, hose in the head or whatever," Kathy says. The guy's like, "No problem." So he did a couple of jumps out of the airplane first with the costume on, but only holding the head. The designer integrated all of the standard skydiving equipment into the piece, including a special helmet so that the performer was dressed appropriately in case of an emergency. And we can see here, uh, we can see this screenshot of that particular area here. You can see that the costume has has a few parts. You see for a skydiver, normal skydiver, you have to have the emergency pull of the stuff. So if you're a skydiver, you have to pull the parachute and all that. Same thing here. And we continue. Back on the ground, the crew's first unit had successfully dropped their dummy banjo from the sky and was busy digging a hole into the dirt that fit the bear's character snout. However, the problem was the impact shattered the inside of the mascot's head. Notably, Fireball still had to get inside for the last shot of a face-down banjo, raising its hand with a thumbs up. Quote, "We're thrown it over the side so many times, and all these sharp shards broken in the face," Fireball says, adding that spiders had also crawled into the mask while lying in the ground. Despite how unpleasant that description sounds, Fireball remembers Nintendo understanding that the mascots were the commercial stars, and because of that, the company treated the couple, quote, like gold. This photograph sounds very familiar. It is from Super Mario Sunshine. As you can see, we have Mario costume. We have the flood pack. Let's continue. Passing the torch. Despite the danger, wild stunts, and long days, the Lawrences view their decade with Nintendo as creatively rewarding. They describe their collaborators and clients as only being professional and generous to their family-run business. Notably, fans still enjoy the publisher's memorable commercials to this day. The Super Smash Bros. Commercial is nearing 5 million views since the copy was first uploaded to YouTube in 2008 by user PSN Dark Knight 01. Quote, "Kathy is a good example of someone who didn't question whether anything was possible," Fireball says. "Our son is a sculptor in the movie industry," Kathy says. "He worked on Black Panther and he's working on Star Wars right now," I told him. "When you have a difficult or dangerous situation, or when you have to pour so many hours at work, those are going to be your stories. You don't want life to just be hum hum, you know?" So now he's passing on the torch. Quote, we're very grateful to be able to participate. And now there's such a love for these traditional costumes. We had so many people reach out to us about our commercials and say, "Hey, you should do those commercials again. It would be great, but you can't really bring back the 90s." And that is the entire article for today. And I gotta tell you, I watched a few of them commercials, and the fact that we got to learn about how they came to be today is a breath of fresh air. Learning about the costumes and stuff, that was pretty fun. And actually, let's see if we can actually find another commercial like that. Let's actually see if we can find one of them commercials. We saw the Mario Party one. Oh, this is fun. This is gonna be fun here. Little bonus for you. So this is by Nintendo Complete. This video is actually the of the commercials back in the 1980s and 90s. So I want to say thank you to Nintendo Complete for uploading this video, in addition to the article from Game Informer. Let's actually take a look at some of the commercials that were filmed with Kathy and the crew. So you might recognize this one. I do apologize if it's freezing a little bit. So this is for Super Smash Brothers, bro. Super Smash Brothers, the original. And that was from the thumbnail too. Oh, Pikachu just going nuts. Let's see what this is for. Remember, we're looking for the mascots. This has to be for another game. Mario Kart. Is it? Yeah, it's Mario Kart. These are classics. I actually see one with the costumes. Here we go, KCL Productions. This is the one we're looking at. This is a history of Nintendo's mascot costume commercials KCL Productions collection. This is by Pat Mack. So I'm gonna link you to this video if you guys want to check them out. This is the KCL production. So that's Kathy and the crew. So this is the one with the costumes. That's Yoshi. Kirby. That's the one where they were doing in the water for Super Mario Advance 2. That's the thumbnail, Super Smash Brothers. It is actually in the thumbnail. So I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I want you guys to experience it for yourselves. I will link you this video by Pat Mack and the article from Game Informer so that you guys can take a look at it too. That's all for today's first commentary of the day. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something today. I learned a lot from watching and reading the article. So make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, and enable your notifications. And we will also bring Retro Yugi Gaming News to TikTok. Okay, get ready for that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm Retro Yugi, and this is Retro Yugi Gaming News for today.